Okay, hi everyone. I'm Helen Taylor, and welcome to my show, Inspired Radio. I'm here with you every Wednesday for conversations and stories to inspire you. Before I go any further, I want to talk to you, my sponsors. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for your support and for your continued encouragement. I appreciate it and am very grateful. All right. Inspired radio is all about change, getting uncomfortable and shaking up the status quo. We're breaking free from our limiting systems and limiting lives and embracing our infinite potential. My guests are here to tell their story because storytelling is creating a new world. So let me introduce today's guest. This is Alice Redman or Redman. What do I say, Alice? Redman?
Either or.
Redman. Okay, Readman, I think. Alice Redman is an author, a transformation coach, a speaker, and the woman behind Travel with Alice. Um, did I get that right? No, I Am Alice is what it's
Yeah,
called.
my
I Am
podcast is my website is travelwithalice.com. So that's probably why.
Right, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's my business
So,
name.
okay, Travel with Alice is the website, and her book is I Am Alice, which was written in 2014 and tells the deeply personal story of losing everything she thought her life would be and finding something even more meaningful was on the other side. In 2017, Alice followed her heart to Bali, where she rebuilt her life and discovered a new purpose, helping others navigate change through writing, coaching, retreats, and even honest conversation. Today, she inspires people to embrace life's unexpected twists and to write their own next chapter. So please welcome Alice Redman. Redman. Hello, Alice.
Thank you, Helen. Lovely to be here.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
great to have you. I'm really looking forward to this. So, with your book, you just say break up, break down, breakthrough. So let's start. What was the breakup? What's that all about? What was going on and when was that?
So the breakup was 2014,
Okay.
30th of September. And yeah, basically I was married to my husband for 5 years and we were adopting two children. So we've been going through a 2 year process to adopt children, and we found
Which
these
country was this in, Alice?
in
Sorry.
the UK.
Okay.
In the
Mhm.
UK, yeah. I'm from the UK.
Okay.
I've just adopted Bali. And so, yeah, we were gonna, we wanted to adopt, and we were matched eventually through all the trials and tribulations of going through adoption, if anyone's been through that, to two siblings, a little girl who was 3 and a little boy who was 18 months. And I felt very connected to them. I knew everything about them. And they were basically we were going to meet them the next day. But my husband woke me up just before going to work and said, he sort of tapped me, woke me up and said, "Oh, I don't want you or the children." So
What?
obviously you can imagine. Yeah. I
Did
was just
he,
like,
did you have a hint of this coming? Like,
there had been some things going on beforehand, but his father had been very ill and had Alzheimer's. And so there had been a change in him. There had been some changes. And also, they do say it's like a lot of things in life. One of the things that they said about adopting two children, it's the most stressful time of your life, you know.
mm, mm.
They put a lot of pressure at it all and being good enough and all of that. So yeah, so basically he woke me up that morning and told me he didn't want me or the children. I sort of am sitting there in bed, not dressed, sitting there. I just grabbed my phone and I just, as he's speaking and telling me it's over, I'm texting my sister saying, "Help me, no husband, no children, I need help." And so I tried to talk to him. I got out of bed. I'm chasing him, not chasing him. I'm following around the house. And I was saying, but, because obviously he was telling me he had an affair with somebody at work. And I was just saying, la, la, la,
And you're in
you know,
shock. You're just in
absolutely.
shock.
I wasn't even awake properly. I hadn't even, literally from my bed, sort of chasing. I said, well, we need to talk about it. It's not go to work today. This is something big. And he said, no, no, I've got to go to school because blah, blah, blah. He made an excuse because I think he was teaching her son at school. So he needed to go and speak to the head and, sort of sort it out. So, yeah, so I sort of ran down the stairs, falling out the door saying, you can't, you really need to talk to me. We really need to discuss this, as a
Mm,
couple.
mm.
And no, he sort of went out the front door. And the last thing he said to me was, you would have made a good mother.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
So
little bit like a stab in the back on the way
yeah,
out.
obviously he didn't see it like that. He obviously just thought, but you would have made a good one. I don't think, we don't know what goes on in other people's heads, right? But I mean, I don't think he was trying to say it maliciously. I think he was just trying to say it factually, and I would have
Mm.
made a good mother. But sadly, he was taking that opportunity off me through his actions. Yeah.
So this is the breakup. So how long had you two been together?
5 years, married 5 years
Five
together,
years,
6 or
married
so.
5 years, two
Yeah.
of those years going through the adoption process. And having
Yes.
said that, even just recently, I can't remember exactly why I needed to investigate it, but I was uncovering that here in Australia, we don't have adoption anymore. Everything's fostering.
Mm.
Everything's the foster system and
Yeah.
children getting channeled through there.
Mm.
So people here can't even do that unless they want to adopt from other countries, I suppose. So I
Mm.
can only imagine that you were grilled, both of you, for two
Oh,
years,
yeah.
inside and out, about your lives, your personalities, your relationship, all of that sort of stuff. And
Mhm.
he went and had an affair as a coping mechanism or something.
I don't know because he never told me. So
Yeah,
I had to resolve that just within myself. You know,
right.
he changed his mind, and that was it, really.
So
So
this is the breakup, right?
that's the breakup.
So
Yes.
then what happened?
Well, I had what only I mean, I'm good at managing situations that are difficult. I was a project manager for many years.
Right.
I was in a band for many years, and there's a lot of drama there too.
Hang on a minute. Hang on a
So
minute. That's two completely different paradigms there. We've got a
yeah,
project manager and in a band.
I
Wow.
know, but there's a lot of drama in both.
Project manager, though, is a more a corporate kind of position. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, in a magazine for a magazine company. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So you've got good organizational skills, good insight, good, all of that sort of stuff.
communication. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you started project managing your own life, did you at that point?
Well, obviously everyone in my family were in shock. Including myself, right?
Yes.
And when you go through adoption, you have to tell everyone. You can't just bring some children out of nowhere.
Yep.
You have to tell all your friends. You have to
Everybody's
fully
along for the ride.
everyone knows everything, so you have to tell all your family. My mother, by that point, it had a picture of the children because, we were given
Oh
a
my
beautiful picture of them.
gosh.
Obviously, we
Wow.
hadn't met them, and people don't really understand that. When you see, I saw a really crummy picture of them. Um, Even just hearing their names, I knew they were mine. It's really, it's like I knew, and I saw this crummy little picture of them, and I thought, I know they're mine. They're mine. I know they. I'm there to be for them.
Yeah.
And
So
then
then
when I saw the
everybody's
gorgeous,
everyone's getting emotionally connected to
of course, yes,
information and the children.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. And they're with us on the process. The stages. Being accepted first, and then waiting, and then getting accepted for. We didn't get accepted for the first two children we went for, and then we did get accepted for the second one.
What a roller
I mean,
coaster. What a
yeah,
roller
it
coaster.
really is. I mean, I didn't mention I did actually have two miscarriages before we went through
Okay.
the adoption.
Right.
Is
And that
relevant
sort of
too.
determined which way you wanted to go, did it?
Yeah, and because we were older, we always said, well, I remember going to an orphanage in Thailand, and all these children there, and I just thought, I don't mind, I would adopt children.
Sure.
They don't have to be mine. They're an innocent little being that needs a parent. I didn't feel like it has to be my blood, it has to be my genetics, or I never really felt like that,
Yep.
especially because we got married later. There was only a small window of opportunity.
So everything was feeling right, and you were having
Mm,
signs along the way saying everything is just working the way that it should. But
mm.
then he, yep,
Yeah, and then he
the
told me that.
statement and
So
leaves. So
yes.
then what happens? We get to the breakdown. How did we get to the breakdown?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was managing pretty well. But at night time, my body would go into a shock, into a lot of pain.
Right.
And I mean, ridiculous amount of pain. I mean, my sister was with me, and
Sorry to interrupt. Can I ask a
mm,
question now?
mm.
Um, so where were you in terms of looking at life from a spiritual level? Were you a spiritual minded person? Had you been a part of that kind of world beforehand?
Yes, I mean, I like to read a lot about Buddhism,
Right.
and I did sing a mantra for my children to call my children in.
Okay.
So I found this book about mantras. I don't know if I've still got the book. I have to have that book, even though I don't sing so much mantra these days. But I sang a mantra for my children every day.
Right.
I chanted the mantra. And so
I just
when
want
I
to
didn't,
understand that you were looking at the energy of the whole process as
mm,
well, not
mm,
just the physical world and what was going on there. You knew
mm,
that there were other layers to all of this.
mm,
Yeah,
absolutely, and I felt connected to the children, especially the
sure.
little girl. I knew in my heart and soul that she was connected to me in some way, maybe a past life or something like that. I was
Mhm.
open to that kind of thing.
Okay.
And when I did see the beautiful picture of her, honestly, I'm not the sort of person that will cry in public. I don't do that. I mean, sometimes I do nowadays, obviously, but back then. But I remember seeing the picture of her, and so beautiful picture of them that I just started to cry. It was such a beautiful moment. I set my eyes on this beautiful picture because the previous one was kind of dark and crummy and just been taken a picture on the sofa or something. But this one was a beautiful one of the pair of them. And when I saw that picture, oh my goodness, my eyes just started to cry. I wasn't like crying. It's just like the joy,
Yes.
like we'd found each other. I'd found my children. And a lot of people find that really difficult when you're adopting. Like, why? How do you know they're your kid? You haven't even met them. How could you have this? It's like your soul tells you,
But
you
isn't
have
it interesting? I heard something that you said. You
mm,
said, I didn't cry much before. So
mm,
to be in corporate and to be in the world that we have here, out there in the world, I should say, we become a bit stoic, don't we? We become a bit closed or shut
mm,
down or cut off or however you want to describe it. So you said you
mm,
didn't cry much before, right? So yeah, I mean, I know personally I shut down. I learned to behave that way and live that way.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Mm,
that's how you were living.
mm.
What shifted that to being this open-hearted woman who could have tears running down her face from a photo of a little girl?
Yeah, I mean, because it was that resonance, it was my soul connection coming through that
Mhm.
just expressed itself and
Yes,
came through.
in
And so
just a
it's when we
moment.
allow that,
Mhm.
that expression, that connection. It's like when you see something beautiful and it really fills your cup with like, wow, a mountain,
But
beauty.
I hear what you're saying, but my point is something
Mm,
happened to you to open you
mm,
up. Is
mm.
that the breakdown?
Okay, so when I saw that picture, that was before the adoption. So yes, the breakdown, yeah, something else opened up pretty sharpish, in the night. I couldn't sleep. I was in so much physical pain. My sister thought it was almost like I was miscarriaging in a physical way,
Right.
or I was birthing, but
Yep.
obviously there was nothing to birth. But my body had that kind of reaction. I won't go into details, but you can imagine my
The
body was
pain of
in,
the loss? Was that the pain of the loss of the
yeah,
husband, the children,
yeah.
even the life that you were going to have?
The life that was taken from me. Yeah,
Mhm.
all in one.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was about 4 nights into it. I actually thought I was going to die. It was like two saucers just, bashing. I could almost hear it. And I was in so much pain. So I actually thought, no, I think I'm going to die. But I was okay about that because I was always a bit spiritual. So I thought, that's okay. And I did actually write a letter saying to my sister that I didn't want any medical intervention.
Okay.
I can
You really
mention
thought
why
you were
I
looking
had
at all
that.
the possibilities of what was going to happen.
Yeah, and I didn't want medical intervention, and I can speak about that later if you want. So yeah, so I'd written that letter, and she had honoured that. And I'd actually got I've got like these candles in the kitchen, which I was lighting a candle for my children for my loss. So the lighting of the candle was almost like I saw that representing my soul because my soul needed to stay alive. And obviously I wanted to stay alive. And I was like, I don't care about all this pain. I'm staying alive anyway. You're not having me. You're not ending my life over this.
And
So I was
how
determined,
long is this since after your husband left?
literally a couple of days. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, every night for a week,
Okay.
I
Okay.
couldn't sleep. I was in project managing during the day and I was in physical pain.
Holding it together at night.
Well, I mean, I wasn't holding it together. I mean, I had to sing to keep me in my body. So I sang the same mantra all night long. And as long as my sister could hear me singing it, she knew I was okay. Because when I didn't sing, I would be in so much pain. I just didn't know what to do with myself.
So
I don't really take,
you were in that space
yeah.
that in between here and there, here and there. You were in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. And so basically what happened during that time, and I don't really fully understand it because I had to forget it all a bit later on. And so basically, a guide or a Buddha came into my life and told me there was a gift in my experience. And basically, like they say, sort of angels or guides or whatever you want to call them, come and hold you. And so they obviously told me to sing that mantra because it was a powerful mantra, I'd found the children through that. I'd stayed, calm and collected kind of thing to go through this very challenging 2 years of being, questioned if you're good enough. I had to go and do a week's volunteering in a small nursery with small children because they said I didn't have enough experience with children.
You had
And
to prove
so
it.
I had to prove it. Yeah, absolutely. And they were quite ruthless, I must say. But anyway, I got there in the end. Well, I did, and then it was taken from me. So yeah, so some other element came through to save me. So I got through that. But by the end of that week, my sister was exhausted because she wasn't sleeping because she was just hoping that I was still alive, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So a family friend came and asked if I wanted help. And then he and his wife took me to their house for a week. And so I spent a lot of nights, I couldn't sleep, but I spent a lot of nights sort of channeling and connecting with people,
Yeah.
other beings,
Wow.
and getting information. And, it was all positive stuff. It was, I'm going to get through this and all of that kind of stuff. It was all
Yes.
sort of, yeah. So I sort of became a sort of, like I said to you earlier, it was almost like I was living parallel lives. In one sense, I was in the 3D world doing my thing. And in another sense, I was also somewhere else in an
Yes.
in-between world.
Yes.
Mm.
Absolutely. I get that. I can see it as you're talking. It's quite extraordinary. I remember years ago, a friend of mine, she was living in New York, I think, at the time, and she rang me up one morning and she said she was been dreaming the night before, and she woke up in the morning, she got up, her husband was lying next to her. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and sat up, and she wondered who she was and where she was. And that's what you're reminding me of at the moment. And it took her minutes, many minutes. She started to get scared. She started to freak out. And then all of a sudden, she just sort of shook herself out of it and then was herself again. But she knows she
Mm.
woke up as someone else. Just for a while, she was someone
Yeah.
else sitting in her
Mm.
body, sitting in her room,
Mm.
and
Mm.
it's like you're talking of, it just reminds me of that. It's wow, what a journey. You're like a
Yeah.
helium balloon ready to leave here, but you've got a chorus of angels or Buddhas or something going, let's look after her. Yeah. And then you've got your sister
Mm.
here, in this dimension looking after you, or your
Mm.
friends,
Yes.
those friends looking
Yes.
after you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I don't know if I mentioned it in my book, but one night, maybe it was a fourth night along or something, and I had no energy. I was just so exhausted. You can imagine not sleeping much. And my sister came in to see me because I'd stopped chanting, and she came in and sat beside me, and she held my hands. And I've never experienced this before, but I'm sure a lot of people can do it. She held my hands, and I took all the energy out of her body. She gave me her energy. She
Mhm.
held my hands, and I took it came through my hands. I took the energy, and it gave me more energy to stay
Somebody had to
alive.
ground you.
And
Somebody had
and
to
then
ground
she had no, but then she had no
you.
energy.
Right.
So yeah, it was very multidimensional for sure.
You betcha.
Like I said, I was living in two universes, the
At the same
3D
time.
and another one, an unknown one.
Wow. And you know what? Firstly, thank you, thank you, thank you for being so brave and so courageous for talking this out loud with me. I appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone listening too, because as I said, I had a girlfriend who had that crazy experience. You're just validating for so many people at the moment, little, big, or medium experiences that they've had as well that may help them to anchor that or relate to that or give it some sort of meaning or clarity for them. Wow. Okay. multi-dimensional woman. Let's move on to, because I know that,
Yep.
you had this breakdown and,
Mhm.
I've had a mental breakdown. I had a mental breakdown overnight. It happened
Mhm.
overnight. It was intense and whatever. And I think it was 10 years overdue. I think I'd been avoiding it
Mhm.
and avoiding it and avoiding it for so long, and then
Yeah.
it happened in a
Yeah.
hit. So how did you have a
Well,
breakdown? What happened for you to have that breakdown?
well, I wasn't sleeping.
Yep.
So that's the first week I didn't really sleep, project managing. Then I went down to Dorset for the second week where I was sleeping more, but I couldn't sleep. I had a lot of information coming through. I was being flooded with this information.
Mhm.
Um, and my friend who I went down to Dorset with, he told me to write everything down. He said, that's your evidence of what is happening to you, because obviously my life was collapsing. So that was an excellent tool, which I've used ever since. And then basically I went back to well, I didn't go back to my own home because my friend Martin said, no, we need to empower you to empty your house of all the children's stuff because you can't be there when you go back and live there because it'll be too upsetting.
Yep.
So he took me back to the house and he said, right, Alice, to empower me, he, said, right. I mean, there wasn't that much. I mean, there was enough stuff, but there wasn't that much stuff.
But as you
Anyway,
said,
I emptied it.
your life unraveled.
Yes.
Everything that you thought
Yes.
was your life, it was
Yes.
like the whole lot's being removed and
Yes.
you have to reset. You have to start again.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything. And most
Everything.
people, I mean, that fractures them mentally, that fractures their mind, and
Mm.
boy, you were just holding it together, and I understand why.
Mm. Yeah. But then I went back, then I went to, there's nowhere really to go. I mean, retrospective, I wish I could have stayed in the house on my own, really. I think that's how people get through these things. They have their own home they can stay in where they feel safe. Obviously, I didn't feel safe in mine. And then they can take some time out. But instead, I went to another place. So I went to my sister's home where my mum was living as well. She had a granny's annex and I stayed there. But, I'm in another different environment and I could hear cars going on. I still couldn't sleep. And they gave me the option of taking a sleeping tablet. But, I didn't really trust those kind of things myself.
Okay.
So I didn't take it.
Yep.
Yeah. And it all got a bit messy, really. I didn't really feel comfortable there. Oh, that's it. My sister was taking me to doctors and saying, what could they do for me? And they said, well, we don't really do anything unless they're in danger of themselves or others. So, they didn't really know what to do with me. I was unpredictable. I took them off to a Buddhist center at one point because
That's enough
I
to
wanted to
make
try and
people,
find some answers,
that's
even though
enough
I
to
didn't go to
make
that Buddhist
people
center.
think that you're losing it, though, isn't it? It's like,
Well, yeah,
doing what they're all being programmed to do is take you to the doctors or take you to a
yes,
hospital, take you to
yes. But
and
I'd gone to the Buddhist before.
meditate.
So I went to the Buddhist because I wanted to tell him and I thought he could give me some wisdom, you know, because I told him I was half Buddhist, which was my truth because I'm not fully Buddhist. Anyway, it's funny when you laugh about, retrospect. But anyway, so I went there and basically they said, well, what are you going to do with your life? And I just said, well, they sort of turned it around on me. It didn't give me any answers or anything. They wanted to get rid of me as well. And I said, well, I'll just take one step at a time. And so then obviously they didn't want to help. They thought
Right.
I was crazy. So I left there. And but I
So,
was just wanting to reach some help. I was wanting to have some understanding.
but you were looking for it outside of yourself, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And you couldn't find anyone outside of yourself to help you. So, how long was it after that that you got sectioned?
I think 3 or 4 more days. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Okay. So, how did that happen? I mean,
Well,
that
it
sounds scary on
happened.
its own.
Yeah, well, it happened because, oh gosh, it's a bit of a long story, but I'll try and make it short. So I didn't take the sleeping pill, right? But I went downstairs because I couldn't sleep. It was about 3 or 4 in the morning. I thought I'll just lie on the sofa. And something very peculiar happened actually. I haven't really shared this, but I will because
Only if you
maybe it
want.
might help. No, maybe it might help others. So my mother turned on the television. I was looking at it, I was thinking, this is really weird. What is going on the television? It's something revolting. I don't know what it was, to be honest. I can't believe it would have been revolting. My mother was watching it. But anyway, something I just didn't want to look at it. I think the television, I just didn't want to see any televisions anymore, and I haven't watched television since, to be honest. I don't watch
Right.
TV. Maybe it was a frequency, who knows, right? So anyway, my mum said, right, take the sleep, get into my bed and go and sleep, and we'll sleep, you can sleep with me, kind of thing. And then she's popped in this sleeping pill. And so when I woke up the next day, obviously I was a bit, further disorientated a bit because I'd taken this pill and a bit foggy. And yeah, and so what happened? My sister took me, I think, because I wanted to really go back to Dorset, but I couldn't. So she said, and I'd sort of thrown away my phone sometime before. So I didn't have any access to my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And they obviously all thought I was adopting the children. And I didn't want to upset any more people. So I didn't tell any of my friends because I thought, we'll just manage this in the family kind of thing. And I
Sure.
had too much going on. So she dropped me off at a friend's house. I had two friends nearby there. So she dropped me off at my friend's house Sunday evening. I think my friend was drinking some wine. And then I turned up and told her my story. And so then I ended up drinking wine. And so I'd had a sleeping pill the night before. We had some wine. Obviously, my friend was devastated about what had happened to me, couldn't quite believe it. So she was in shock. Everyone I saw was in shock,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I was in shock. We're all in shock.
Yes.
So yeah, so they wanted me to see somebody home. There's home psychiatric people that come there anyway. They came to the house, and they said, yeah, she needs some antidepressants and mindfulness and blah blah blah. But then they said, oh, go and see a psychiatrist, will you agree? So I did agree. So I got taken to a psychiatrist. I didn't want to go, actually, but I did go.
Oh my
um,
gosh, you didn't tell the psychiatrist about your Buddhist visits and your.
no, do you know what, I tell you, this is very dramatic scene, right? It's one of the most dramatic scenes. So my sister and my best friend take me there. On the way there, I'm saying to my best friend, look, can you get me out of this? I'm okay, really. I'm just showing symptoms of, but I'm okay. Anyway, she wasn't having any of it. So got there, they opened the door, they put me in there. I go in there, and there's some person that all these people look very distressed sitting in this reception room. I go in, see the doctor, see the other doors open. I see the doctor, didn't like the look of him at all. I mean, okay, my ran out the door because I thought, I'm out of here, because I didn't feel I was going to endanger myself, and I didn't feel suicidal at all. I just wanted to live. So I ran out, and of course, a policeman is right in front of me, and he says, and I'd been talking to some police people earlier in the day, actually, because my friend called the police and ambulance because I went out to the shops and she thought I was in danger. I hadn't done anything, but they brought the police and, earlier in the day.
So essentially, like Alice, were your well-meaning friends and family seeing they were projecting onto you what they thought was wrong, what they thought was going on with you. Yeah. Inside yourself, you're like, I've got it together, but I know I've got a lot going on and I know lots happening, but I'm okay. I don't need a sleeping tablet. I don't really need to see a psychiatrist, but they're kind of projecting that you need to go and do this. They think they're helping. They think they're
Yes,
helping,
they
but
do.
gosh knows
Yeah.
what they've been telling the police or what they've been telling the psychiatrist, right? And of course, the medical sort of setup only puts you into categories or boxes. And so you'd already been categorized as having what, mental episode. And when they look at the extreme things that had happened to you, they think they're doing the right thing by locking you up.
Yes. And I was trying to prove to them. I don't know if you've ever tried to prove that you're sane.
Pain.
It's very difficult. Yeah. So
Especially when
yeah.
somebody's already decided that you're not.
Yeah.
Wow.
So basically I was running away from them because, remember, I didn't have a place of safety. It happened
Yes.
whilst in my own
Yes.
bed, which should be a place of safety.
You were
And
in
it
shock.
isn't.
You were in
I was
shock.
shocked.
You had chemicals running through your body that are all to do with fight and flight and survival and everything else. And then you had a little bit of a cocktail of sleeping tablets and a little bit of a cocktail of bit of alcohol. And, I mean, it's just, a breakdown is a breakthrough. I'll
Mm,
never ever forget years ago learning that in Indigenous cultures, if they see
mm.
somebody having a mental breakdown, the elders take them away and, look after them. They sit with them day and night, and help them process. But here in Western society, they grab you and they lock you up.
Yeah. So you can imagine, I was face to face with this policeman, and he had one of those recording devices. So I knew I was being filmed. And I said to him, thinking this was quite a sane thing to say, really. I said, "Are you really a policeman?"
And
He didn't like that. He didn't answer. He just stood there like a robot, really. And then the ambulance came and they
well, that
put me in
probably
the
just
ambulance.
convinced him that you were a nut.
Yes, the fact that I had to ask. But actually, I tell you one thing that happened in that moment, because then I had to give up, right? I had the policeman not even talking to me, not acknowledging me, just it's almost like a robot.
Yes.
And then the ambulance people came. I must admit, they were very kind and sweet. And I just let out a scream, some expression,
Yeah.
because I wasn't allowed to be angry. I felt like I wasn't allowed to be angry. I wasn't allowed to express my emotions. I didn't
Would
have
have
the
been
space to be
terrified. I would have
held.
been terrified.
So I actually screamed, the loudest scream, because that was my surrender.
Mm.
Because I had been chased, I'd been it's sort of like hunted, really, you
Bullied
know,
too.
because I was trying to prove to them that I was okay,
Yeah.
but nobody wanted to believe me
So how long did you
because
get
they were
sectioned
looking at
for?
my expression of myself. Sorry.
How long did you get sectioned for?
Well, you get sectioned for 28 days,
Right.
but that's another story because I got out after 2 weeks.
And they want they medicate you while you're in there and
So, okay, so the first night you go into this white room with big glass panel that they're all looking at you all the time to check up on you.
observation.
Observation, yes, they love their observations, and that was pretty weird because actually I didn't even know where I was. I didn't know I was in a hospital, because I'd gone to sleep and then I woken up in another room and I didn't really know what I was doing there. I didn't know I'd been sectioned. I didn't actually know, because obviously I was so exhausted.
Mm.
And so that was a bit of a funny experience. But then they took me upstairs to this purple room where I was that was my room. And then they forcibly injected me, even though I told them I was pregnant, they still injected me. Obviously I wasn't pregnant, but
Yeah, but
could
you're
be
making up
technically.
stories.
Yes, because I was trying to protect myself.
Absolutely.
Anyway, and then they put you on drugs. And so I was on these drugs, and I think it was after a couple of days. I couldn't sleep in there either. The whole point was me to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got this big door with like jail, like
Bars on
shutters,
it.
and then they walk around every 20 minutes with their keys, and then they put a light torch through the thing to make sure you're still alive, and they do that every half an hour, and so you couldn't sleep, and it didn't feel safe to me. That was just one aspect of safety.
Yeah, of course.
So I'd lock myself in the room. Obviously, they could open it the other side, and that's what would happen every 30 minutes.
Suicide watch.
Yeah, even though I wasn't suicidal. No
Yeah.
one even asked me if I'd been
Yeah.
suicidal.
Wow.
I, I mean, it was interesting. When I saw the three doctors, or maybe it was only two, when I was in the white room, they asked me, I told them what my diagnosis was. I said I'm suffering from grief and loss for my children,
Yes.
but they locked me up anyway. And obviously that's what they do in the West, right? So yeah, so I was in this purple room, and after about 4 days of taking these very high, I don't know, these drugs. I mean, I've got it written down what they were, but I can't remember off the top of my head. For bipolar, I think. I had this massive panic attack, and I couldn't breathe, and I could barely walk. And I went out to try and get some help from somebody, but there was nobody. I saw there was nobody really. They came and gave me something to be sick in, and then I actually couldn't talk because I couldn't breathe and I couldn't. And I saw this woman who was a support worker, and I said to her, actually I couldn't even speak, so I wrote, you know, I needed oxygen. I was sort of anyway. She ignored me, so then I thought, okay, it's me and my journal again. So I got my journal out with my pen, and I'm just right. What time is it? Okay, and I was just like
So
trying
really,
to get myself
you
through the panic.
knew before that you just wanted to be on your own. You just wanted a safe space. You just
Mm,
needed to be on your own in a
mm,
safe space.
mm.
But that didn't happen. So
No.
everybody started watching you, right? You're with your mum, you're with your sister. Everybody was watching you. Everyone was around all the time, and then that wasn't making you any better. And then
Mm.
so you end up getting locked up and observed
Mm.
more and more and more, which just
Mm.
started exacerbating all the symptoms and creating even more. I mean,
Mm.
it's like going in there sane and they're making you insane with.
Well, that's actually been scientifically proven that's what happens. They put some people in an American psychiatric room that were perfectly fine, but they didn't tell the staff. And after a week, yeah. So basically, you get heavily programmed through, right, you get up, you go and take your pills, you go and have breakfast, and then you're allowed to go back into a room, or you can do some coloring in, or
Is
do
there
into.
any therapy? Are you getting an opportunity to talk to somebody to really
Yeah, I
think,
did a tiny bit, but not really.
right,
Not really.
right.
And there's people doing observations on you every 5 minutes or every session, 3 sessions a day, and they write about you. And do you know what? There was a chaplain stationed in our little world in the unit, and there's a little shop as well. And I went shopping to buy some clothes, but I didn't actually have any clothes with me, except the ones I was wearing, you know. And but the chaplain, so I kept on trying to see if I could see the chaplain, right? And then eventually I was trying to, because I'm sorting out my bank accounts in now. I'm doing all this other stuff I need to do. You know, I haven't got time for this coloring in and jigsaw puzzling. You know, I'm doing, life stuff that you need to
The
do, right?
project manager was
Yeah.
really pushing through.
Even though, I'm on all these drugs and everything. Anyway, I see the chaplain. I said, "Oh, can I speak to you?" And he said, "Oh, okay, yeah." So I was allowed to go and sit with the chaplain. Anyway, I spoke to him for 1 whole hour and told him what happened in my life, and he listened. So that was helpful.
Absolutely.
So
One
he
person,
actually held the space and just
yeah,
listened.
one person. Fabulous. We need to move on because I want to hear
Yes,
what the
yes, yes, yes.
change was.
Sorry.
I want to hear what the change was, right? So there
Yes,
was a breakthrough that happened. So
yes.
you've got breakup, breakdown, breakthrough, right? So here you are talking to me from Bali, right? So
Mm.
2024 was when all this started happening. 3 years later, you're moving to Bali. And before we go to there, I just want to say to everybody listening, like, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, there's not one psychotic part of you at all. You're speaking really well. You're tuning back into the memories and articulating them all. And I mean, you just look so centered and so together and all the rest of it. I challenge anyone to find a tiny little bit of mental anything about you. It's
Mm.
incredible, isn't it? I mean, to think that that was happening to you
Mm.
12 years ago,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah.
3 years after that,
Mhm.
you moved to Bali. How did that happen?
Yeah. So when I got out of there was some other complications. I don't really need to cover, but you can read it in the book. There's another story that happened whilst I was in there. Something happened to me and
Or
it
we'll do
had
it again, love, and we'll do it another time.
that's fine. So
Absolutely.
then what happened was, so when I came out, I was like, right, how do I get healthy? So I found an Ayurvedic guy, had a couple of meetings with him, and he was really understanding. He worked in the NHS, but he's also an Ayurvedic doctor. And so he told me all the things to take and I did some courses with him. It totally inspired me. I went out to nature every day. I went walking, although I couldn't walk very fast. I had really high blood pressure.
I was just
And
going to ask what needed healing. I know mentally you needed healing, but you're talking about your blood pressure did as well.
Oh, I had really high blood pressure when I was locked up. They
Right.
didn't notice it until maybe the second week. I think it was probably those drugs I'd taken. And
Absolutely.
so then they started testing my blood pressure at the time, and it was always ridiculously high and extremely painful to actually have your blood pressure taken when it's high. But
Right.
anyway, I monitored my own blood pressure for another year, to make sure, because I had no way I was going to go to hospital. And once when my blood pressure went over 200, I'm like, no, I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
So yeah, so I started getting better. Did a lot of journaling, did a lot of walking. I thought I could off go and get a job and everything, but then I realized, I'm not quite ready yet.
Right.
So I had this dream. I didn't tell anyone. I knew I'd been traveling before. I traveled all around Australia and New Zealand in my 30s, and I'd always wanted to live abroad. In fact, I did apply to get into Australia, but they wouldn't have me. So I was quite disappointed about that at one point. But anyway, so yeah, so I just dreamt that I was going to go somewhere new, create a new life, and be inspired by all the beauty, and go traveling, because it's always so inspiring, isn't it, to see beautiful things and to meet different
Yes.
people and just, have that transitional stage. So I did that. I went to Nepal. My sister was living there. I went around India. And then my visa ran out. So I made a few, thought, where shall I go? Mexico, Sedona. I put all the places, Hawaii, all the places I'd like to go. And then Bali. And then it's just Bali. And I was like, that's really interesting because I had my honeymoon here. And so, yeah, I came back to Bali and then everything just step by step opened up for me. And I was still, suffering from anxiety. In fact, I
Fragile.
actually
It's
didn't even
fragile.
admit that to myself, that I had anxiety for all these years since I've been here,
Yeah.
because the safety aspect, all these things, feeling safe in a bed, feeling safe. I like to lock all the doors. I'm one of those because I don't want any surprises. And that was my way of, well, if I have the door locked, no one's going to just walk through it. They'd have to knock, things like that you don't realize. But it's, safety is important, right? And luckily, Bali is a very safe place anyway. So I'm blessed to be here. The universe brought me here. And I met some lovely friends here. And I went to lots of temples and got water purifications, because one of my things, if you read in my book, it's quite funny, really. I was like, as soon as I got at this, I was like, how can I get blessed? I need to be blessed. I need to be purified from what happened.
Okay.
And the Dalai Lama, I thought, I want to see the Dalai Lama. Like I said, I'm half Buddhist.
Yes.
And so I looked up and I thought, oh, he's in Denmark. He's in all these places, right? And then I see he's actually in the same county, in a small little place called Farnborough or somewhere. And he's doing some blessing, but he's doing this thing in a stadium, a small stadium. Literally 3 weeks later, and I was like, oh, well, I must go. I mean, anyway, I won't go into that, but I did get a lot of blessings
Good.
because I thought that was a way of purifying myself. I didn't want to find a guru or anything like that, but I just thought, there must be something special about them. I'll get a blessing. So, yeah, but I went traveling, did all the purifications here in Bali. Just, it's so beautiful here. The energy is so different. And I didn't want to live in the Western world anymore.
Yep.
I just wanted to try and make a new life for myself.
Sure.
So, yeah, so I started to do that, and I started making a bit of jewelry or designing some malas, because obviously I'd spent a fair amount of my time chanting, and that had been something that had really saved me. And I started doing a lot of chanting in kirtan here, because that was a way of using my voice and healing myself, through singing and chanting and,
Yes.
being around people.
I also know there's a doctor here in Melbourne, in Australia. I've been and listened to him. He talks about the value of humming, and he actually explains the scientific effect that humming has, particularly on the vagus nerves. So we all know the vagus nerves run down both sides of the neck and they wander. It's called the wandering nerve through
Yeah.
and what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you were doing, you were
Mm.
healing yourself because
Yeah.
when you have a shock as tremendous as what you had, it completely smashes the central nervous system.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
your humming and your mantras that singing as well has been healing
Yeah.
your whole being
Yeah.
through doing that, through the vibration of the vagus nerve. Wow.
Mm. And the mantra kept me in my body, kept me alive.
Right.
I mean, I literally was singing it alongside the person singing it on YouTube or whatever it
Oh my
was.
God. And you do
Yeah.
retreats in Bali. Does anyone want to go for a retreat now after hearing that? Hang around this woman, learn how to sing and hum yourself into health. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you're in pain, right? And sometimes, not very often, but say if I've been in pain, something's happened, I bashed my toe once or something. And what I find is actually, if you groan, that actually does relieve the pain, because you're
oh
actually
my
sending sound into
gosh.
your body. So I looked a
Instead
lot.
of instead of suppressing it, which is what we do,
Yeah.
we just like,
Yeah.
you hit something, you stub your toe, you go,
Yeah. It's a pain reliever. And I did a lot of looking into frequencies, and I had a frequency device in 2020, and I was using that, and that was amazing. So all these different things I've learned. I came here, I did sound healing. I found, I went to a gong bath, and I got a gong, and I started playing gong, and then I started playing bowls, and I started, all these different instruments. I did a lot of training, and then I did my voice. It's not that, a lot of sounding and expression, and it doesn't even have to have words. It just has sounds, improvising. And that's how I got to write that song. The song came through one day because I've been improvising. I've got a monochord now. It's called, actually, it's not a monochord because it's a smaller portable version. It's a Mona Lina, apparently, but I call it a monochord. And these strings, and I just improvise. So it's like when we need to be heard, right? So we can sing and our body can hear this. So I believe that all this sound and frequency stuff I've done has healed me.
I have no doubt. And what I want to say before you say anything else, I would like to thank you. And I've had to do this with one other guest before, and I think I'm going to do it more. I want to thank you from soul to soul, and for all the other souls that are out there listening to this. You went through one of the most traumatic experiences in order to experience living between this dimension and another, in order to anchor into this existence, this realm here, the ability for people to ground themselves, anchor themselves, and heal themselves through sound.
Mm.
You did that. And it's like, I know that when one does it, they're doing it for everybody else that's going through it or is ever going to go through it. It's like you're transforming it and you're starting that transformational shift. That's what I want to thank you
Oh,
for being
thank
brave
you.
enough to go, and put your hand up on some level going, I'm going to
Yeah.
have to go through this hell in order
Mm.
to experience and learn a number of things so I can share them.
Yes. That's why I shared my book, because not many people want to share their book about getting sectioned because you're full of shame and you're isolated and
Absolutely.
you don't fit in anymore and you're the white elephant in the room. And I
And
didn't want anyone else to feel that.
And I was listening to you and I'm like, oh, I'm just, really, really, so intrigued with, the white room and the, just the explanations and stuff, because no one talks about it. No one
Yeah.
talks about what it's like in there. And here you are going, they want you to use crayons and crayon books and stuff. And you're like, no, I need to do my banking and I need to, you know, wow. And now people are starting to realize that if you get sectioned, you're going to get drugged. You are going to get drugged whether you want it or not. And that's
Mm,
then going to cause blood pressure problems. It's going to cause, panic
mm,
attacks and all sorts of other things. It's going to just
yeah.
exacerbate what's going on instead of heal and fix it,
Yeah.
which then
Not a place to heal.
pushed
No.
you to another level of
Yes.
finding the healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, they're
you
not a
find
place
a
to heal.
chaplain, and then when you get out of there, you end up in Bali, and
Mhm.
you really, like, first of all, you travel around like you were just learning and learning and absorbing, and oh my gosh, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and I'd always loved photography. I'm retrained as a graphic designer, so taking pictures and putting them on Instagram for me, it was just like never any pictures of me, but
Yep.
pictures of places and I don't know, a cow or a flower or something, just like because I wanted to really feel alive. Because basically, the way I see it is that killed me, and I had to rebirth into a new self. And
Wow.
um and
Yep.
so all the things that gave me joy, I would just something beautiful, and I went to around India, I went to Auroville, I went to all these different places, and I got blessed a lot, as I said. But yeah, that's why it took me some years to share my book, because I would tell people, I got to know a little bit about what happened to me. And some people say, well, you needed to be locked up, things like this, so you have to be really careful who you share your information with, because it can be very damaging for you. And so I eventually, yeah, had the courage to, because I'd done the first draft back in 2015, and I had the courage to actually work on the book again. But, putting that out there
Yes.
was really tough. And if anyone's putting out a book, right, one piece of advice I like to give you here and now is that what I realized is that it was the day before it was going to be published. And I thought, whatever anyone thinks of me for getting locked up, doing this, doing that, whatever I did, and has a judgment about me and why I'm doing this. Because I know in my soul I'm doing it for other people, not because I want to brag about getting locked up or all
Yes.
the rubbish that happened to me
Yes.
and tell people, my rubbish. It's because I wanted to help other people. And but what I learned was that the judgment of others towards me personally, because I put out that book and the subject and etc. etc. It's not about me. It's all theirs. And that's a really powerful tool if you're putting out a book, right? And like yourself, sharing your, your life story and what happened to you. And yes, we all don't make there's no right answers when you're in a situation like this. This is, I mean, I think I was quite clever in some ways to, as soon as I got locked up, I had to become an actress, the way I saw it. I was like, right, I do everything they say. I got dressed every day. I got dressed, put my makeup on, did, and then would sit there with my book writing and observing as they were observing me all the time.
Yep.
And
So you had to act the
most
part.
people didn't.
You had to act the
So
part.
I was like, right. So I did everything. I took my drugs. I had my breakfast. I went back. I would go in my room because I felt safer there. Although at times I didn't feel safe in there. But so I played the game. So I thought, right, okay, we're in a movie. Let's play the game. And then after the panic attacks, I was like, right, I'm secretly not going to take them because another girl told me that some of them, that I thought, what a great idea. Of course, I'm in the movie. We don't take the drugs.
Yes.
So I didn't take the drugs. 5 days later, I get taken off the section because then I'm able to get a solicitor, sort out how am I going to get out here. I had to go to court to get out because you're not allowed out, even if your family come and take you. 28-day section, no arguments. Basically, you're imprisoned.
Oh, so that's why you said earlier that you got out after 2 weeks.
Yes.
And that doesn't sound like insanity ruling when you're finding yourself a solicitor, working out strategies, working out and realizing, hey, I have to act this way so that I'm accepted and they leave me alone. Then you stop taking the medication. That doesn't sound insane at all.
No. And then one day my sister came to visit. She wanted to bring her husband to show, look, Alice is actually fine, trying to prove because she didn't think I should have been in there anyway, kind of thing.
Yes.
And just before I met them, one of the people called me in and said, oh, Alice, because usually they have to ask you how you are, which they never really bothered me because people actually thought I worked there, funnily enough. And she called me into her office and she said, you haven't been taking your drugs. And I said, because I'm not allowed not to take them because I'm sectioned, right? Yes. So she gave me the drug and then all went through my whole body. And I was just like, whoa, And as I see my sister, because Alice, what's happened to you? I said, well, she just made me take my drug, their drug. So yeah, it was a battle in there to get out, and it was a battle to survive. But I did it.
Yes. So tell me now, Bali. All right. So you've written the book, and you've been blessed a zillion times.
Yes.
And you have learnt so much about sound and singing and energy and this world and another world, all of that sort of stuff. What are you creating in Bali?
What am I creating in Bali? Well, I mean, I've created a journal because, like I said earlier, journaling really saved me. And so, in the journal, I basically share everything that saved me, what I did. And so it's a way for you to
find that you've written.
Yeah, I can show you a little picture if you like. This is the I Am journal.
Okay.
It's called Connection, Creativity, Clarity. Okay. Because that's what I say in my podcast too, because I wanted, and I want other people to have more connection with themselves. Because firstly, we have to connect with ourselves, right? We have to know who we are, and we have to connect with our emotions. We have to, know who we are and be compassionate and kind to ourselves, right?
Well, I also liked what you said. It's like we have to express the pain, the stubbing the toe, the groan, that's so beautiful because it's getting us out of the head and into the body. The body, right? And feel the body, which is what so many people are not doing. They're just walking heads, right? Because that. So you're getting them into the body to feel and then to express as well.
Yeah. And also I wanted to find joy and laughter, because when we laugh and when we smile, it sends a signal to the rest of our body. Just smiling.
It's also a God-given right, isn't it? We're supposed to be here having a good time.
I know. And so, knowing who we are and resolving that stuff within you through writing and singing and expressing and trying new things, I'm always trying new things, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and, and so that goes on.
Just then, you said resolving things. You
Mm,
know, we've got therapies, we've had therapies going on for decades and decades, but we're
mm,
evolving out of those therapies, aren't we?
mm.
So you're talking about resolving things through writing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
that's absolutely, because I've written a book as well, right? You know
Mm,
that when you've written your story and you've put it on pages, wow. For me, I had 2 foot high of journals that I had used to piece everything together. And
yeah.
I sat in such a happy space and ripped every single one of them up and threw them all away.
Great.
It's
Yeah.
like you just release a whole heap
Mhm.
of
Mm.
baggage of some sort, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I journaled all the way through the 2 weeks when I was locked up, and my friend had the journals, and he did say, "Shall I burn them now?" I said, "Absolutely,
And
I
that's the
really do."
therapy. But I'll say to anybody out there that
Mm,
questions that, the mind gets in the way and the mind can't make
mm.
sense of why the hell you'd want to do that. Well, the only way you're going to realize how important journaling is to do it.
Yeah.
In the experience that you
Mm.
start to realize.
Yeah,
And
well, it does something to the brain. It's not about typing, it's about, it helps in neuroplasticity of the brain.
it
So you've got
does.
the
You're
pen, you've
right.
got a physical pen
Yeah,
in your hand, and you've got a
exactly.
piece of paper or
Yes.
not, journal. And then you are, whether you're drawing, doodling, I mean, I do, like scribble. You can
Yes.
do what you like, right? You
Yes.
can write exactly what you like. And so, yeah, to express
Yes. And
whatever you feel.
that's
And then it
important.
becomes
Yeah.
more of a, like a channel. It just comes through.
People need to understand, yeah, what you're talking about is a pen or a pencil and paper. It is not about typing. Typing does not create neuroplasticity like
Mm,
actual writing. Using
mm.
the hand, moving muscles,
Yeah,
there's something else that goes
yeah.
on. It's really
Something
important.
happens in between, hand through the arm, sending signals up into the brain. And
Yes.
then you just, even if you're not even writing anything, any words, you can just you can do anything, really anything. Just do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't be scared. It's a piece of paper and a pen. It's not going to harm you. It's safe.
Yeah.
And it also
Yes.
takes you into your childlike self too. It can.
And
So
what it's
you
doing
can,
right now, it's bringing up this energy of curiosity with you and me, right? There's this curious energy. It's beautiful.
and then write about what you want to do. What was your biggest dream? Like for me, it was like, right, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get out of the UK. This world is not for me. I'm going to quietly leave because I don't know if you know, I'm sure you do. If you get sectioned once, the chance of you getting sectioned again is pretty high. And
Oh,
I've met people that this has happened to because I've met quite a few people because they connected with my book or I connected with them when they were going through something because I heard.
yes,
And, so I've had some lived experience from other people about their experiences, and also people having spiritual awakenings
yes.
or spiritual emergencies, I'd like to say, actually, and holding space for them, And I realized, wow, how did that happen?
That's a good phrase, spiritual emergency,
Mm.
because you're an expert on that.
Well, that's what I've learned because I had to investigate it and I wanted answers.
Yes,
Um, and obviously, I had to stop channeling the minute I got in that place because I knew already, and I knew they were trying to lock me up.
yes,
So I was trying to prove that I was okay. But in trying to prove I was okay, if you try and prove you're sane, I can tell you now, they'll think you're madder.
yeah,
So there was no way out.
yes.
I'm trying to prove I'm sane, and you know, and basically you can't. So
Well,
get yourself into a safe place with some people. And this is the other thing which I say, who are your people? You
mm,
know, we think we have friends and all of this, which we do, but who could you go to in a time of transformation?
mm,
Who could you go to that could hold space for you? And
mm.
I think now, looking forward in our lives, if this happened to you, how would you manage to do that? So
Mm.
it's something to think about. I'm not saying everyone's going to have a sudden spiritual awakening. It's
Well,
possible.
I think that everybody knows that over the last 6 years, they've been through crisis with COVID, with lockdowns, with all sorts of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really good. People have started finding their tribe and they've started finding the people that you're talking about. But
Yes.
I am so sorry. We have run out of time.
Oh, that's okay.
We,
Sorry.
we're hardly done. We're hardly
Yeah.
done at all. I want to let people know that I have
Yeah.
got your website and I
Yeah.
have got your YouTube in the show notes here.
Mhm.
You are offering a number of different services to people. It's either writing books, it's transformational
In
coaching
Bali.
and retreats in Bali as
Yeah.
well. It's all on your website. It's all there. I'm sorry to have to wrap it up so fast, but
That's
it's like,
okay.
what
Sorry. I had so much to say.
to do this again. Thank you so much for being so brave and for talking to us about things that once upon a time put you in a, had you feeling so much shame, right?
Mm.
Thank you for letting us all know because you're shining light on all the little dark corners. I love it.
Yeah, I don't want people to suffer alone.
Mm.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
that's a beautiful way to end. Thank you so much. It's been
Thank
an
you so
absolute
much,
pleasure,
Helen.
Alice. Okay.